In this episode we're going to deal with the steering head. With an original steering head like this one, which is still without a disc brake mount, there is always a problem. How can I fit a hydraulic brake cylinder? There are various solutions where you can saw this off, and I would have no problems with that in this case. But there are also solutions that preserve the mount for the original brake lever. But then you have the problem that the brake lever is attached, but this original thing is still around, and it always looks kind of strange and seems to be in the way. And I just don't like it. But now there's a solution that I personally like a lot. It's from the company Listor, and you just put this thing here over the original brake lever mount. Then you just screw it tight and fix it here and there with two grub screws. I'm going to drill a hole through here so that the whole thing is also TÜV compliant and cannot move. In any case, this part has the advantage that it looks very nice and that it allows you to use any original brake pump meant to be used in a motorcycle steering head. Now I have a radial brake pump from braking here. I'll show you that. It can be easily fitted. As quickly as with this part, I generally never have had a brake pump attached to a steering head that is actually meant for a Bowden pull wire, because, you know, the conversion is now already finished, and how I find a visually very pleasing solution. Both parts, the radial brake cylinder as well as this conversion kit from Listor, can also be found in our shop. You can find the links in the video description below. One part that I would also like to draw your attention to is this selector box. This is a Motorino Diavolo selector box, and it has the advantage that it works sequentially. That means you can only ever change a single gear at once. You have to let go of the switching handle to be able to shift into the next gear. That has the huge advantage that it is almost impossible to miss gears, and especially with large frame motors, which are a bit vulnerable to that. This actually helps a lot to expand the lifespan of the engine. Next, I put the steering head together so that it can be assembled. I have painted the switch tube myself, that's why there is still masking tape on it. I'm going to clean it all up a little bit now. Now the handlebars can be mounted in the steering head, and all these switches here can be assembled. After that, the steering head is ready to go on the scooter. While assembling the handlebar, I want to pay attention to the gear shift, because I want to install the Motorino Diavolo selector box, a sequential selector box. And that needs some work here on the shift lever. First, this thing here is installed in the shift lever. It has a spring in it that ensures that the shift lever automatically resets. And since the switching paths are slightly longer with the Motorino Diavolo, I'm using this thing here. This is our SIP gear roll. This is the original, this is the SIP part. This one is made of plastic, this one is very nicely milled from aluminium. And it has a slightly larger diameter, which shortens the switching distances. It fits very well with the Motorino Diavolo and makes sure you can shift very well. And very soft. It's fun. Okay, so first I install the shift tube as usual. Always grease well. That's important to make sure it runs as easily as possible. Very important for the Motorino Diavolo, everything that has to do with the gear shift must run very, very smoothly, so that it's really fun to use the sequential selector box. Very important too, never forget that washer. A small distance washer, so that it doesn't rub directly against the handlebar. Now it's going really smooth. Here we need two washers again, a spring washer and a spacer washer. And before I close this up, I'll check first whether the washers bring the whole thing to the right distance or not. There's a little too much pressure here, it moves slightly taut. I would like less pressure, it must slide better. So now I have a thinner washer that I'll put in here. A little hint, I always sharpen these clips at the end. This makes it much easier to thread the clips here into the hole. This saves a lot of nerves and takes about 10 seconds time on the bench grinder. Yeah, that's better. Alright, I'll take it out again. I noticed that I need to add a little bit of grease here as well. And then I put it together. Important, now I'll put this spring sleeve in here so that the switch tube automatically resets into its neutral position. Everything turns nice and easy. Now this spring sleeve turns naturally and nothing resets. That's what this small part is for. It grips around the spring sleeve and is screwed on the front of the screw for the headlight attachment. So that means I have to disassemble it later again when I install the headlight. But I'm going to do it now to demonstrate it. Now the steering tube should always simply slide back into the neutral position. It doesn't. That means I still have a resistance somewhere. I definitely have to reduce it because it won't work like this. I already have an idea why. The sheath metal here presses against the switching tube. Now it works fine in both directions. This is a job that you should always take your time for when installing a Motorino Diavolo. If this doesn't slip nicely, then the whole thing is no fun later. The shift notch also has a light return spring, but it does not have much power. That is why it's important that the position reset also works well at the top. Now the same thing with the throttle grip. Here's a washer that ensures that the gas pipe does not grind directly. It must be in between and everything must be well lubricated. This is a custom design by me, a converted gear roll, but we also have that in a nice official SIP version. You'll find the link down below. What else do we need? Now we have some switches that we can also put in there. For some reason that doesn't fit. I have to fix it a little. Let's see if it fits now. With a little force it fits. Let's see if this one fits better. So now we get to one of my favorite tasks, mounting a steering head. That's always annoying. The lowering of the steering fork is landing on my feet now. I can't get the screw through the recess here. I guess I have to mill that out. Oh man, that's the last thing I want to do.
Eine Stunde später. 3 Stunden später. Eine abgetragene Schuld an der Gesellschaft später.
Now to the steering clamp. Let's see if it fits the way I imagine it. There are a few cables that would still need to be put through, but since I don't feel like doing that right now, that will come later. For now, we'll put the engine in.